Now, religious leaders, human rights groups have condemned the excessive use of force by the police while enforcing the dusk to dawn curfew last night and called for immediate action to be taken on those found guilty. Victor Kiprop reports on the violence and brutality that greeted the first day of the curfew, even as the country entered the second day of an overnight curfew in order to curb the spread of the coronavirus in the country.
A few hours after Kenya entered only its second nationwide dusk to dawn curfew since independence, tens of Kenyans were nursing serious injuries from the violence meted upon them, ironically by the very same people who swore to protect them.
What we witnessed last night was totally unnecessary. Curfew measures were outlined, and yes, the public knows that by 7 p.m. they ought to have been in their houses. But we are facing situations that are beyond normal citizens. So for the police to really react the way they did, for us that's excessive use of force and it is unacceptable.
I would want to appeal that they approach it with a humane face and hand, because they too are our congregants, they too have children, they too have brothers and sisters.
It is extremely important at this time that Kenyan law and the international human rights standards are respected, not just in Kenya but all over the world. The police bear a responsibility and a duty to maintain public order, but also to enforce the law, but they can only use force when strictly necessary.
From journalists in their line of work, ordinary Kenyans heading home, to even defenseless women trying to cross the ocean using the ferry, the police forgot that the enemy was an invisible, highly contagious virus and went on a rampage, tear-gassing, beating and assaulting innocent civilians, in most cases defeating the sole purpose of the curfew.
In all this situation, we are supposed to be adhering to the Ministry of Health guidelines on social distancing. So when you force Kenyans to queue back to back, already we are staring at a very critical situation where probably the spread of the virus is taking place.
We also need to be concerned for the police officers that were involved in the operation yesterday. Very few of them, I don't think I saw more than 2 or 3 that had masks. None of them had gloves. Many of them were actually touching people.
The Independent Policing Oversight Authority, IPOA, says it is investigating the matter.
We have also engaged with the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, who reiterated the importance of ensuring that the police oversight continues to protect Kenyans from police officers who flout the law.
Before Kenya begins enforcing a dusk to dawn curfew for the second day in order to curb the spread of coronavirus in the country, many Kenyans are already rushing to beat the 7 p.m. deadline. But given the brutality witnessed in the enforcement of the curfew yesterday, many are in fear of what is in store for those who will not be home by the time darkness falls. Victor Kiprop, NTV.
Okay, and I'm now joined on the line by spokesperson of the Kenya Police Service, Charles Owino, after seeing those pictures of what happened in day 2 of the curfew. Mr. Owino, good morning and welcome to Your World.
Good morning to you. How are you?
Very well, thank you. But not too well with the police. I need to ask you a couple of things. Maybe first of all, we have had, if you were watching us, these complaints by people who are ferrying in and who are allowed to ferry in food into the city or across counties, and they get a lot of harassment at police roadblocks, even though, for example, that order issued by the regional commissioner in the Rift Valley says you should allow food to pass through. Police don't seem clear on what kind of documentation these people need. What would you say to that? Can you give us some clarity on this?
First of all, thank you so much. I think so far so good. The law enforcement officers have done their best to try and ensure that enforcement on regulations that were put in for curfew and restriction of movement in the counties of Mombasa and Nairobi, Kilifi and Kwale is still going on very well. The issue of officers of cases of transportation of food across the country and across the counties, I don't think we have gotten much complaints. Because I know there are a few people who are trying to violate, but in terms of food and in terms of vital items that are required. I think the movement has been quite smooth. But all the same, in event that maybe one or two police officers decide to be unreasonable or difficult for one reason or another, I think we have senior officers close to those particular areas. Even if it is Nakuru, we have the sub-county commissioners, the county commissioners, the sub-county police officers, the county police officers, and the regional police officers. So I don't think we need to get a lot of trouble, because if you, in one way or another, you get into trouble with a policeman within an area, then it is important to contact his immediate superior for clarification.
Now, Mr. Owino, what are the instructions to police at the roadblock? When they stop a vehicle that's legitimately ferrying goods and it's allowed to do that, what documents should they show to the police?
It's not an issue of documentation, because food is food. If you're carrying food, if you're carrying vegetables, we'll be able to tell these are vegetables. So there isn't much that we will ask you to carry, unless you are a particular service provider that moves. For example, now Nairobi is totally locked down. And for example, if you are a chemist, running a chemist in Murang'a, and you want to move from Nairobi to Murang'a, we will not allow you. Or if you are a doctor living in Kiambu, living in Nairobi, and you want to go and work in Kiambu, we will request you to get temporary residence in Kiambu.
But Mr. Owino...
Just a minute. If you are a surgeon, for example, and you've gone to Nyeri for a particular duty to operate on someone, we'll allow you to come back.
Mr. Owino, you still haven't clarified my issue.
Yes.
And I'm saying this because we've received complaints. We have someone right now on the line who was on our program and is still on the line, who ferries agricultural products to bring, across the counties to Nairobi. The police have no clue what they need, so they face a lot of harassment. There are demands for bribes. What should the police ask for?
Why are you asking? Why are you insisting that what should we ask for? If you are carrying food, it's food. If you are carrying cabbages, it's cabbages. If you are carrying maize, it's maize. What are we going to ask you for?
And if that person is taking back the truck empty, he has nothing to show. How will the police allow him through?
Definitely, he passed that roadblock. Most of these roadblocks we have several agencies that work in this particular place. Like, for example, I'm sure about Mombasa. When you are leaving Mombasa or when you are leaving Nairobi and you are carrying food, we stamp on your document. And if you are going, we will stamp on your document that you got into Nairobi carrying food. When you are coming back, you will come back with the same document, and we'll be able to tell you had carried goods across to the other side.
That's what I need clarity on. What are those documents that you're stamping?
But you have an invoice. You are going to deliver whatever you are going to deliver. You remember we had given instructions very clearly that, for example, if you are in a lorry, then the owner of the lorry will definitely put up an instruction that there's a driver and there are two conductors in this particular vehicle. And with that letter that you carry from the owner of the lorry is what we are going to stamp.
Now, just turning on to another issue, the pictures we played there obviously were in the early days of the curfew when the police used excessive...
Not early days. It was on the first day. Don't say early days. It was on the first day.
Even if it was on the first day, there was excessive use of force by the police. I think we're not disputing that. Now,
when you talk about police, you talk about 120,000 men and women in police uniforms, police officers. So when us as police, we don't, police officers take individual responsibility. We don't take collective responsibility. And you are aware that when this happened, immediately, just a minute.
Mr. Owino, sorry.
Listen to me.
Hold on, sorry, Mr. Owino. I want to clarify something. Excuse me one moment. I'm saying I get you that it's not the entire police force, but you have to speak on behalf of the good ones and the rogue police officers. That's why I'm putting these questions to you.
Yes, and that is why I want you to be very specific. Don't say police. These were individual police officers. And these individual police officers, we immediately took action on officers who misbehaved on that particular day. We interdicted them and we suspended them, and the process of discipline is on. Because you remember, individuals also have their rights. They'll defend themselves, but eventually the law catches up with you. So we did our part, and I don't think you've seen this again. And it baffles me if you keep on repeating the same, because I wonder, are you playing old steps to incite the public against law enforcement officers? Why would we keep on playing this if it happened on the first day and action was taken? Why would we continue doing that?
So you're saying it's no longer an issue at the moment with the police?
I'm not saying it is no longer an issue, but whatever you are trying to do is to incite the public. You are giving a wrong impression, not only within our country, but internationally to everybody else, to give an impression that the police are brutal. What I'm saying, this stands, COVID-19 is a serious disease, and it is only your police. These policemen are the ones that will enforce laws and regulations of the land. You are not going to get policemen from Rwanda or from Zimbabwe to come and do that. And if an incident occurs and action has been taken, we must respect that. We cannot keep on repeating the same, because
now, Mr. Owino,
if we do that, then we are inciting the public against the police, which is wrong.
No, we're not in any way trying to incite. We're seeking clarity, and it's because of the number of complaints we've received. Can I give you a personal example that happened to me last night as I was coming to the Nation Center here on Kimathi Street at around 7:45 p.m. I am authorized to come to work. I have all my IDs and documentation. And when the police stopped me right here on Kimathi Street, they came at me, two policemen and one policewoman, armed with whips and bits of hose pipes. Is this a standard issue equipment these days for the police, whips and hose pipes?
I cannot prove that. I cannot tell whether you are telling me the truth or demonstrating. But if it happens, that is not a standard regulation.
Sorry, I was not demonstrating by myself, Mr. Owino.
And you know that is not a standard regulation.
So are these standard equipment issued by the police? That's what I'm asking. The whips and the hose pipes.
It's not, and you know that. It is not, and you know that.
I don't, because the police who came at me to intimidate me were carrying these whips. So I have no knowledge, Mr. Owino.
You know very well. You know, there's something I've always said, and I don't know why you are not getting me. If today we catch your child smoking bang, God forbid, would we deal with him as an individual or deal with you?
It's a matter for you, the police.
These officers work under us, we accept. And these officers are under very strict rules of discipline. So I always say that police officers take individual responsibility. If you find one or two police officers misbehaving, what I would actually demand, especially when you found them with the whips, and you are somebody who is quite informed and you have all our contacts, you just give us the contacts and tell us, in this particular joint, there are 4 police officers, they are carrying whips, and they are misbehaving. We will take action immediately. You need to support us. You don't need to wait and come to the studio to attack the police fraternity, 120,000 men and women. You need to contact us. You are informed, you have a phone, you have our contacts. Contact us. If we fail to act, then you can blame us.
Mr. Owino, we celebrate the police when they do the right thing, and we feature them on our programs.
And we've always done wonderful. We've done well for this country.
Now,
and that is why we feel concerned when you pick 1 or 2 cases which we can deal with and highlight it as if the world is coming to an end.
Okay, Mr. Owino, just a different type of question. The police and the security forces are now very vital in this, in helping to combat.
The police are very vital, whether there is disease or not. Police is very vital, very important.
Can I now ask? So the question I was asking, but is there a danger that the approach could you might militarize what is essentially a public health issue? It's not a civil unrest issue.
I can tell you for sure that this is a serious epidemic, and we are not going to compromise standards, especially health standards. We have a duty and we have a responsibility as the police to ensure that regulations that are put forward are adhered. And therefore, we are going to ensure that this is done, and nobody is going to manipulate us to tone down on enforcing regulations. But equally, what we will not accept is an individual police officer taking advantage of this situation to harass any member of the public. And we are very strict on it. And we have institutions that are also supporting us on this. So what you should support us on as much as possible is to ensure that you support us in identifying these officers who are misbehaving, either capturing them on video or whatever, because the Inspector General cannot be everywhere. Myself, I cannot be everywhere. The top officers cannot be everywhere. Members of the public are urged to support us. Almost everyone has a simple phone that we can use to capture videos. You remember we just had a case in Kilifi and a case in Kwale where an officer was captured picking bribes, and the members of the public passed the information to us. We have already sacked those officers. So I call upon every Kenyan, wherever he is, to be on standby, because this is a very important thing that we are, a very important duty to ensure that every Kenyan is safe from this pandemic. But what we are saying is any officer is going to take advantage to mistreat any Kenyan. It is the responsibility of every Kenyan to support us, to support the management of the police. Capture as many as possible. We will deal with them, and that will help us. We are not denying that there could be 1 or 2 police officers misbehaving, but capture them.
Okay.
Pass them to us, we'll deal with them. Mr.
Owino, a last question. The guys who escaped from isolation, have you found them? Have you arrested them?
So far, I've not been informed of any, but I suppose they cannot go far. We have to catch up with them. I don't know how many could have been arrested so far, because I've not been in touch with the Nairobi area region commander to get to know the number. Maybe they have been, maybe they have not been. But even if they have not been captured, we are going to catch up with them. There's nowhere they can run to.
And finally, from me, we're all trying to deal with this pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. It's a really big concern for safety. But are we safe in the hands of the Kenya Police Service?
You are always safe. You cannot even be there safe at the studio without the police supporting you. So you are very safe in the hands of the police. Support the police. Give the police the best image, especially where police is supporting you. Where we are wrong, you have a right to highlight, but it is unfair to keep on highlighting what we have already dealt with.
Mr. Owino, I thank you very much indeed, and for taking the initiative to call us up to respond to some of these things that we put out on our program.
Well up, but we require you to be patriotic, and remember, we will always use our own policemen. The men in uniform in the Republic of Kenya are the ones we'll use. We are not going to import any policemen. Support those police officers, support us, but where there are cases of indiscipline, highlight them, pass them over to us, we'll take action. But remember, the love that you pass to your policeman is the same love that you'll get back from the police officers. Thank you.